She had never imagined that a single moment could define her entire world. Standing on the edge of the park's deserted bridge, the rain soaking her hair and drenching the hem of her coat, she whispered into the gray wind, "I'm not fit for any man." It wasn't just the cold biting at her skin that made her shiver, it was the crushing weight of every failure, every heartbreak, every whispered judgment she had carried inside herself for years. Her reflection on the slick pavement looked back at her with hollow eyes, and for a fleeting second, she felt invisible even to herself. Life had a way of teaching harsh lessons, and she was convinced she had learned the cruelest one of all, that she was unworthy of love, that she was too broken to ever be held, too damaged to ever matter. Before she could succumb further to despair, a voice cut through the stormy silence, calm yet resonant, "You think that's true? You think you're not worthy?" Startled, she turned and saw him, a man she barely knew but who had always been around, a quiet presence in her life that she had overlooked. His eyes, steady and unwavering, held no judgment, only an intensity that unsettled yet intrigued her. She expected ridicule or dismissal, but instead, he waited, patiently, as if he had already decided that her despair didn't define her. Right there, in the rain, she realized she wanted to disappear, to vanish from the world and from herself. And yet, a small, stubborn part of her couldn't look away from him. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of someone seeing the good in you even when you can't see it yourself, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Kindness Chronicles. Her name was Lila, and for as long as she could remember, life had been a series of missteps and misfortunes. Abandoned dreams, friendships that fell apart, a love that left her feeling unworthy, and a career that never quite aligned with her passion. She had catalogued every failure as evidence of her inadequacy. Every time she tried to rise, life seemed determined to push her back down, and she became an expert at pretending that everything was fine while silently believing that perhaps she truly was not fit for anyone, not for love, not for trust, not even for herself. Her apartment was cluttered, not with material things, but with memories of moments she wished had gone differently. Old photographs of her smiling with people who no longer spoke to her, letters she never sent, and journals filled with ink-stained confessions of her self-doubt. She lived quietly, invisibly, resigned to a life she didn't dare hope to change. Then came Michael. He wasn't flashy or overly confident. He didn't sweep her off her feet with grand gestures or eloquent speeches. He noticed the little things, the way she frowned slightly when she walked past her favorite bookstore, the way she hummed a tune when cooking alone, the quiet resilience she carried despite everything. Slowly, hesitantly, he became a presence she didn't notice at first, until one evening, sitting together on a park bench after she had missed the bus and the rain had soaked them both, she found herself speaking aloud the words she had never said to anyone, "I'm not fit for any man." He looked at her with a softness that made her ache and, after a moment that felt suspended in time, he said, "Maybe that's not true. Maybe you just haven't met someone who sees you, really sees you." His words weren't magic, but they were a spark, a small, fragile flicker in a life that had been mostly darkness. He didn't promise her the world, didn't try to fix her in an instant, but he believed she could be more than the sum of her scars. That night, as they walked home through puddled streets, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement, Lila felt something stir inside her, something she thought she had buried long ago, hope. Hope, however, doesn't arrive without its trials. As the weeks turned into months, Lila struggled against the inertia of her self-doubt. Every compliment from Michael felt undeserved. Every tender gesture made her flinch, and the ghosts of past betrayals whispered relentlessly that she was destined to fail again. She would retreat, pushing him away with sharp words or silent withdrawal, only to find him patiently waiting, offering small acts of care that slowly built trust brick by brick. There was a night she cried in his arms for hours, recounting every failure, every heartbreak, every moment she had believed she was too flawed to be loved. He listened without interruption, without judgment, holding her as though her pain was as important as the air he breathed. In that embrace, Lila began to understand something she hadn't allowed herself to before. Love isn't about perfection, it's about presence, persistence, and the courage to show up for someone even when it's hard. The turning point came one cold winter evening. Lila had been offered a job in another city, a dream opportunity, but it terrified her because it would mean leaving everything familiar, including Michael. She spiraled into panic, convinced that she would ruin it, that she was too unfit for this chance, for happiness, for him. She sat on the floor of her apartment, the weight of indecision pressing down on her chest, when Michael arrived, unannounced. He didn't bring gifts, didn't speak grandiose words, he simply sat beside her, gently took her hand, and said, "I don't want to solve your problems. I don't want to take away your fear. I just want to be here, with you. Whatever you decide, I'll be here." In that moment, Lila realized that love doesn't demand perfection, it simply asks for honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to let someone in. Days turned into weeks, and Lila began to see herself through a different lens, not as someone broken beyond repair, but as someone worthy of kindness, worthy of second chances, worthy of a love that didn't demand her to be perfect. Michael's unwavering belief in her created ripples she hadn't anticipated. She started speaking up at work, reconnecting with old friends, and even forgiving herself for past mistakes. Each small step, each tiny victory, strengthened her and transformed her in ways she hadn't thought possible. She realized that the person she had deemed unfit was simply herself, misunderstood and unappreciated, waiting for someone, or perhaps herself, to recognize her worth. By the time spring arrived, Lila's world had changed in subtle yet profound ways. She laughed more freely, walked with her shoulders lifted, and met people with a newfound warmth. Michael remained by her side, but no longer as a crutch, rather, as a partner who reflected back to her the best version of herself, a version she had almost given up on ever knowing. One evening, as they watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink, she whispered a simple truth, one that felt like both a confession and a triumph. She felt fit, not just for him, but for life, for love, for herself. And he smiled, not with pride or condescension, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had known all along that she always was.